the dankest application of Eido U2 Prime. So for those of you who don't know, Eido U2 Prime, it's basically doing U Prime, but also more of it, so it looks like that. So it's a U2 Prime. You do it, and then you just kind of keep pushing on this sticker, like that. It was popularized by Andrew Nelson back in the day, probably before my time, if I'm being honest. But that's where it originated, as far as I know, hence the name Eido U2, I believe was his nickname. So pros and cons of it. So pros, you can grip the cube with your middle finger, and that's nice, I guess. Whereas, you know, doing a double flick, you got to shift your grip a little bit slightly. Cons, your finger ends up in a dog shit position. So I don't recommend people use Eido U2 Prime for everything ever. That said, there are some applications where it can be okay. In general, I like it for PLL AUF if your hands end up in an awkward position. Let's say, what's a random example? Let's just do the R perm. Let's do that. Something like this PLL. When I'm here, like I'm doing this R prime, U2 R prime, after just doing like a D prime push, I don't really want to shift my grip. And because it's the last move of the solve, I'll happily do this and most likely not DNF unless I happen to do something like this and then it kind of comes back, which is a risk that could happen, but generally that's not going to be an issue. So I like it for PLL AUF. I also like it if the following move is a fat R turn because you can corner cut through it. Or normal R or fat R, I should say. So like normal R like that, or like a wide R, you can corner cut through it. If it's an R prime, more chance of a lockup. Obviously hardware is a lot better these days, so that's less of an issue. But even still, with better hardware and better corner cutting, you're going to have less risk if you only do it when an R is following the Eido U2 Prime. So, what is the dankest application of Eido U2 Prime? Well, in my opinion, it's for these two F12 cases. So you got this one here, where you might do like L prime UL insert, or we have this pair here in the back, where maybe you would rotate, do that, or maybe something like this into an F insert. But what I think is better is to just do that. And that works for both pairs, so this case at this angle, it'll solve it, or this pair in the back, it'll work as well. So what I'm doing, I've been a bit of a show pony. What I've actually been doing is F, R prime, U2 prime, R, F prime. Now this does require 2x2 style F and F prime turns, or pinch F and F prime, whatever you want to call it. So I brace these back two layers with my left pinky, and this is just something you'll want to do in general for index F and F prime, at least in the context of a righty dominant algorithm. If it's lefty dominant and you're using those turns, you would brace with your right pinky instead of your left. But that's more of an add to the side, just more knowledge for y'all. So why is this so dank? God, I can't take the word dank seriously. Anyway, okay, why is this case so good? Well, you do the F, you do the Eido U2 Prime, you do the R and corner cut through, and then for the F Prime, your finger's actually pretty much already in position to do it. You know, normally this is an awful position for your index finger to be in, but if there's one move that you can do decently well from this position, it's F Prime, like that. So that is why this is, in my opinion, the dankest application of Eido U2 Prime. And it turns these cases into very slick 5 movers that can be done very quickly like that. You know, not much slower than a free pair insert. So there you go, that's the dankest application, and a little bit of history on Eido U2 Prime, and just some general tips on how to use Eido U2 Prime if you're going to insist on not learning double flicks, as well as a bit of info on how to do index F and F prime turns. So we learned a lot today, didn't we? Alright, that's it for this one. God, what am I doing? Okay. God, I sound so corny. Anyways, thank you for watching. Ba-bam. I will see you in the next video.